captured by the cornea to the lens, and lens will focus the light onto the retina, so that the retina will capture the light, and it will send the impulses, nerve impulses via optic nerve to the brain, to the occipital lobe of the brain. So if you see the structure of the structure of eye has been broadly divided into three areas: outer layer, middle layer, and inner layer. So outer layer is made up of cornea and sclera. Cornea is present on the anterior end of the eye, whereas sclera present on the posterior end of the eye, which is a transparent layer. And one student said the reason for transparency is particularly absence of blood vessels or blood supply. Since there is no blood supply directly connected to the cornea, so the cornea is highly transparent in nature. And cornea is the only tissue in our body where there is no direct blood supply to the organ. And the middle eye. So middle eye composed of a choroid, ciliary muscles, and iris. So the purpose of choroid is for allowing the blood vessels to enter inside the eye, whereas the purpose of ciliary muscle is to adjust the shape of the lens, and the purpose of iris um, is to allow the amount of light entering inside the eyes. In case of dark room, more amount of light will be entered into eye by dilating the iris. In case of the bright area, iris will be contracted so that the less amount of light will come to the eyes. So the amount of incoming light is determined by the dilation of this iris. Okay, so that is the purpose of iris. Then last and final is retina. So retina contains all nerves such as rods and cones, which are very essential for the detection of light. So they can also be stated as a photoreceptors. And there is one particular area in the eye called optic disc, or it is also called blind spot of the eye, where there are complete absence of rods and cones or nerves. Absence of nerves because this is the area where the blood vessels will enter into the eye. So in that area, we can't process any light, and this particular area of the eye is called as blind spot of the eye. So this is all about the structure of the eye. Then we discussed about the individual functions of each and every organelle of the eye. So the purpose of sclera is for giving protection to the eyeball. Choroid is for preventing. It will prevent internal light reflection, and also it will nourish the retina via blood supply. Retina contains rods and cones so that the light can be converted to nerve impulses. Ciliary body is the main purpose of ciliary muscles is to control the shape of the lens. Then iris will control the amount of light entering into the eye. Pupil is a small hole that allow the light to enter inside the eye. Lens is for focusing light onto the retina. Cornea is for bending incoming light onto the retina. Fovea. So fovea is a tiny place in the eye where there are color vision, where there are cones are concentrated on the fovea. Fovea is a region in the eye where there are many cones, and these cones will detect the color. Okay. So that is fovea. Then we discussed about blind spot. So blind spot is an exact point where the blood vessels will enter into the eye, and there we cannot process any light, and that area is called a blind spot. And optic nerve. Optic nerve will carry the impulses generated by the retina to the brain, to the occipital lobe of the brain. Okay, so this is all about the functions of the eye. Blind spot, I have given the definition, everything here. Then, then we discussed about the errors of refraction. So errors of refraction means errors of bending of light within the eye. In what conditions we may get these errors of refraction of the light? This can be occurred because of a change in the diameter of the eyeball. If the eyeball diameter change means that definitely affects the point of focus of the light onto the retina, and that will cause two types of eye conditions. One is the long sight and other one is short sight. Short sight is called as myopia, whereas long sight is called as hypermetropia. So, and we have third condition which is called astigmatism. Astigmatism means light will be abnormally scattered onto the retina. The light has been not focused onto a single area, rather than it is scattered within the retina. And this particular condition is called as astigmatism. Okay, normal scattering of light within the retina is called as astigmatism. Then first one is myopia or short sight. So short sight people cannot see distant objects. They can only see nearby objects, but they cannot see far away objects. So that is why it is called short sight. So the reason for this short sight is focusing of light in front of the retina. So focusing of light in the front of the retina results in short sight, and this can be rectified. This can be rectified by using biconcave lenses. So by using biconcave lenses, we can able to rectify myopia. Okay, short sight can be rectified by using biconcave lenses, whereas long sight means here the light focus will be on the back side of the retina. That results in blurry vision, and this long sight can be rectified by using biconcave lenses. Biconcave lenses will shorten the light rays, whereas biconcave lenses will longen the light ray. So our goal is to focus the light onto the retina. If you're the better the focus, the better the vision. So we will adjust the power of the glasses to maintain the focusing of light onto the retina. So that is why we are using specs. If the person has short sight, then we will go with biconcave lenses. If the person has long sight, then we will go with the biconcave lenses. Now, typically, we will see long sight in the people rather than short sight. So, short sight is comparatively lesser in the people compared to the long sight. Okay. So, this is all about the errors and the corrections of the errors. Corrections can be made by using either biconcave lenses or biconvex lenses. And the you will say the eye power. Eye power is nothing but the bending angle, the angle of refraction of the light ray. The greater the angle, the greater the eye power the patient has. This is all about the corrections of refraction of the eye. Short sight is called myopia, as long sight is called hypermetropia. Okay, then astigmatism we discussed. Then if both the eyes has different eye powers means, then that condition is called as anisometropia. So anisometropia means it is the condition where both the eyes has different eye powers. So one eye may have a long sight and the other eye may have short sight, and that condition is called anisometropia. So in case of this condition, patient must wear both concave and convex lenses. Then astigmatism are of two types: regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. This you need not to worry. You just write astigmatism. Astigmatism means it is scattering of light within the retina. Abnormal scattering of light within the retina is called as astigmatism. Then we have one more thing which is called presbyopia. So presbyopia means loss of here the ciliary muscles elasticity, the muscular elasticity will be diminished as aging. So when you're becoming old and old, the elasticity, then the property of elasticity of the ciliary muscle will be diminished, and that results in failure of accommodating the shape of the shape of the lens of the eye. That results in blurry vision, which is very common in old age people, and this can be rectified by using biconvex lenses. So this is all about the eye and errors of refraction. Is there any more doubts in this particular topic?
No, sir.
Fine. So let me move on to the new topic, which is the structure of ear. Okay. So let us move on to this next topic, and kindly maintain absolute attention hereafter. Okay. So my next topic is the physiology, the anatomy and physiology of the ear. So very simply, students, in the ear, first the ear, this is called the ear pinna or outer ear. Okay. So and I will tell certain words, certain terms. Kindly remember. So here we will use a term called canal. So when I say canal, a canal means it is a tube. Tube is called as canal. So in the ear is like a specialized tube, a modified tube. Okay, here is all about a tube. This tube has been modified in such a way we can able to process the sound. Okay, so these canals, we have many types of canals like external canal, inner canal. Okay, internal canal. So basically, the ear was divided broadly into three areas: external ear, inner ear, and middle ear and inner ear. Okay, external ear, middle ear, and inner ear. So external ear is composed of ear pinna and external auditory canal. Then it ends with a membrane, and this membrane is called tympanic membrane or simply eardrum. Okay, so until eardrum is external ear, then you can see this portion. So in this portion, you can see three bones. Okay, incus, stapes, and malleus. These three bones together are called ear ossicles. These three bones together called as ear ossicles. So these ear ossicles, and you can see one tube running down to the ear, and this tube is called as eustachian tube. So together, ear ossicles and eustachian tube makes the middle ear. So middle ear composed of these three bones and eustachian tube. Then inner ear is composed of a snail-like structure. So this structure looks like a snail, and it has some weird loop-like things, weird loop-like canal-like rings. Okay. Together, these canals and this vestibule or this snail-like thing together is called as cochlea or inner ear. So inner ear is composed of this cochlear structure. Okay. So what is the purpose of these structures? I will tell the purpose. So what exactly happens is first the sound, the sound waves will be captured by the ear, and this ear will direct the sound waves towards the eardrum. Okay. Now, because of this sound waves, eardrum will oscillate, eardrum will move. Now there is an issue. The issue is the sounds are too much low sensitivity. The sound waves has very small sensitivity. Uh, they cannot. Okay, the movement caused by the sound waves is very tiny, very small. That is not sufficient for us to detect the sound. We need to amplify the sound so that we can able to detect it. you know if the person is too much far away, we cannot detect his sound, we cannot detect what he's telling, what he's trying to say. But if the person is near, we can able to understand what he's trying to say, because the sound has been increased. Similarly, by default, the sound waves in the nature are very small, and somehow we need to increase the sound waves. Only when we are increasing the sound wave, we can able to understand, or we can able to process the signal. So that amplification, that sound amplification is done by this beautiful three bones. So these are the masterpieces of the brain, of the ear. So the purpose of these bones is to increase the amplitude of the sound. What they exactly do is they will receive the sound signal, and they will increase the frequency of the sound. They will increase the amplitude so that we can able to detect the sound. Okay. So here the movement is very small, but here the movement is very high. If you compare the movement here and here, uh, here it is only less movement, but here the movement is very high. So the movement has been amplified with the help of these three bones. Uh, and interestingly, these three bones are connected by synovial joints. So, and these three bones are the smallest bones in our body with a proper synovial joint. So even though they are small, but still they possess synovial joint. So something which is really interesting feature. Okay. So these are called incus, malleus, and stapes. Okay. Incus, malleus, and stapes. So together these three bones are called as ear ossicles. The main purpose of ear ossicles is to amplify the sound signal, or simply to increase the sound signal. Okay. Now they have increased the sound signal. Then these stapes, this stapes bone was connected to a small window. It is connected to a small window-like structure. This window is called as oval window. This small window-like structure is called oval window. Now, this oval window is connected to a inner ear. Okay, this region is called inner ear. So, in the inner ear, very simple, students. In the inner ear, these are tubes actually. These are fluid-filled tubes. So if I go depth, there are two types of fluids. We have perilymph and endolymph. So simply the fluid inside the ear is called lymph. Okay, perilymph or endolymph. In this lymph or in this fluid, they possess tiny hair-like structures. Those hair-like structures are present in a specialized area called corti of the ear. In that corti, or simply inside this ear, we have tiny hair-like structures, and these hairs will move when the steps. Okay, when the steps moving, these steps will generate waves in the fluid. In this tube, we have water. Simply, you can think water, and the water will produce waves because of movement which is exerted by the steps. Okay. when the waves are generated in the water, these waves will propagate or they will move the tiny hair-like structures. Moving of these tiny hair-like structures result in generation of electricity. When the hair-like structure moved, they will make a nerve impulse. They are directly connected to neurons, and those nerves will generate electricity. Okay, nerve impulses simply. And those nerve impulses are sent to the Broca's area of the brain or temporal lobe of the brain, where the brain will process the sound and it will give an uh, an accurate description about what we are perceiving, what sound we are perceiving. So this is the simplest mechanism of the ear. So ear is broadly divided into three areas: external ear, middle ear, and internal ear. External ear is composed of ear pinna or the flap that we are seeing outside, and it has external auditory canal. So through this auditory canal, the sound waves will hit to the tympanic membrane. This tympanic membrane is also called eardrum. This tympanic membrane is connected to the ear ossicles in the middle ear. So middle ear is composed of ear ossicles and eustachian tube. So basically, this eustachian tube is running down up to the pharynx of the mouth. So up to the mouth, it is connected. Okay. And the purpose of this eustachian tube is to maintain same pressure in the both the middle ears. Okay. It will maintain equal amount of vacuum in both the ears. If the vacuum is not evenly distributed, when I say vacuum, it is absence of air. Not pure vacuum, but rather than less amount of air will present in the middle ear. Okay. Uh, suppose you just imagine there is an empty room and there is a room filled with many objects. In which room we will get more echo? In an empty room, if we are shouting, we will get more echo. Okay. Whereas in a room filled with many objects, the echo will be
Empty
absent.
room.
Yeah, in the empty room there will be more echo, and in the full room there will be less echo. Similarly, here the more the air, the more the echo. We need to remove the air, or we need to evenly distribute air in both the air so that we won't get any echoes. For that purpose, that pressure of air is maintained by the help of this eustachian tube. So that is the main function of the eustachian tube. And last and final is the inner ear. So inner ear, it is like it is like a sensor or detector. It is the true detector of the ear. Okay. So it will process the signal. Actually, the signal will be captured by the inner ear. Not processing, capturing is done by the inner ear. So in the inner ear, it has fluid with the hair-like structures. So when the fluid makes waves, these waves will move those hair-like structures, and those hairs will generate nerve impulses, and those nerve impulses sent to the brain through auditory nerves, and those brain will process it. Okay, in the Broca's area of the brain. So this is the simplistic mechanism of ear. Now let us go to the boring stuff, which is the textbook form of understanding the structure of ear. Is it clear uh, until now? Is everything clear about ear?
Yes.
So
Yes,
I
sir.
have
Yes.
yes, I have oversimplified the
Yes,
terms. Now let us go little bit depth. So in a nutshell, ear has external ear, middle ear, and inner ear. External ear is just for capturing the sound, and inner ear is for amplifying the sound. Whereas, sorry, middle ear is for increasing the amplitude of the sound or amplifying the sound. Whereas inner ear will detect the sound. So these are the three structures of the ear. So ear is divided into three regions: external, middle, and inner ear. So now let us see the parts of the ear in depth. So first, in the external ear, we have three parts. One is auricle. Auricle, or simply ear pinna, the outside flap that you are seeing, is the part of external ear. So external ear has ear pinna, then it has auditory canal. What type of auditory canal? External auditory canal. This is called external auditory canal. Okay, it has auditory canal or external auditory canal. Then it will end with the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is also called as eardrum. Not only this, in the external ear, it also has a specialized glands. I forgot the name of those glands. They are called serotonin glands or something. Those glands will secrete the wax. Okay, they will secrete the wax, and the purpose of this wax is for it is a part of immune system. So if any microbes or any pathogens entering through the ear means they will be captured to this wax and they will be killed. Okay, in this wax it contains all germicidal substances, so that germicidal substances will kill the pathogens. Other one is this external ear is also composed of many hair follicles, and the purpose of these hair follicles is to prevent entering dust into the tympanic membrane. The dust will be prevent entering inside the ear by these hair follicles. And when even though the hair follicles is trying to stop the dust, but still dust will enter into the ear, and that dust will be cleansed or that dust will be cleared by this waxy substance. Okay, presence of wax is a good sign. It indicates a healthy ear. Absence of wax is problematic, but presence of wax is a good sign. Okay, uh, sometimes it may cause irritation, but you should not remove wax entirely from the ear. Absolutely, ma mainly when you are inserting any Q-tips. Q-tips means the cotton tips. If you are inserting any Q-tips, this wax will propel even more deep into the eye, and that wax cannot cleanse out. There is a there is a natural mechanism of removing this wax by the ear itself. But when you are obstructing this normal mechanism, obviously the wax will be get stuck in the ear, and that will cause even more pain. And there is a chance of there is a risk of even damaging the tympanic membrane. If this tympanic membrane was damaged, means definitely you must go for surgery to restore the tympanic membrane. So never do such mistakes of keeping any objects in the ear. If you damage it, that's it. You will experience a severe pain. There might be a chance of breaking the ossicles, and it will direct you to the surgery also. And recently I saw a news, some 7 months ago, that one person brain was entirely filled with small eggs, calcified eggs in the brain. When they took the X-ray, they came to know that the person has severe parasitic infection, and they don't know the reason how the patient got this parasitic infection. When they investigated, they came to know that the Q-tips that are using by the person was infected by the parasitic eggs. And with the help of ear pathway, auditory pathway, parasite eggs entered into the brain, and the parasite entered into the brain and it laid eggs. And unfortunately, the patient died in coma within 2 to 3 days after detection of this severe condition. So, and also the ear nerves are very close to the brain, so there is a high chance of getting brain infection through ear canal. So don't keep any unhygiene substances in the ear, and don't get risk yourself into such fatal conditions. These are some add-on points. So basically, external ear is composed of auricle or ear pinna, external auditory pathway, and tympanic membrane. Other than that, external ear is also composed of sebaceous glands that will produce wax, and also it has hair follicles that will prevent entering of dust into the ear. Then coming to the middle ear. In the middle ear, we have auditory ossicles. So when I say auditory ossicles or auditory bones, there are three. Okay, incus, malleus, and stapes, and they are the smallest bones in our body, especially the stapes, and they are interconnected by synovial joints. Then, sorry, middle ear is also composed of oval window. So oval window is connected to the inner ear, and eustachian tube. Middle ear is also composed of eustachian tube, and the main purpose of eustachian tube is to ensure equal pressure in the both the ears. So this is all about the middle ear. Then coming to the inner ear is composed of semilunar canals. So these are called semilunar canals. Okay, the weird three canals are called semilunar canals. Then we have vestibule. So vestibular nerve, actually, when I said vestibule, this is the vestibular nerve. This is the region of the inner ear where the nerves are connected to the brain. So from cochlea, the nerves are connected to the brain in the region called vestibule. Then last and finally is this snail-like structure called cochlea. So together, cochlea, vestibule, and the semilunar canals make the inner ear. Now, in this cochlea and in this inner ear, this inner ear is composed of two components, membranous component and bony component. Together, bony component and membranous component together make this inner ear. That we will discuss when I'm moving forward. Is everything clear so far? I made some more complicated. In the beginning, I made a simplistic view of ear. Then I made even add-on points to the ear. On the external ear, we have ear pinna, external auditory pathway, and tympanic membrane. In the middle ear, we have ossicles, oval window, and eustachian tube. In the inner ear, you have semilunar canals, cochlea, and vestibule. Until you are getting clear about this one, I cannot move forward because you can't understand what I'm discussing there. Unless and until you know this picture. So I hope everyone is clear about this. I will ask few questions. Just tell me parts of middle ear, students. Parts of middle ear.
Sir, auditory ossicles.
Auditory ossicles, very good.
Oval window.
Oval
Oval
window,
window.
very good. And we have one more.
Eustachian tube.
Eustachian tube, very good. And what are the parts of inner ear?
Sir, in
Sine circle canal.
external
Semi,
auditory
semi
canal.
Cochlea.
cochlea,
Cochlea.
and vestibule region. Very good. Then what are the parts of external ear?
Ear pinna.
Pinna and auditory canal.
Ossicles, auditory canal.
You must say external auditory canal.
External. External
Then-
auditory.
Sorry, external.
Yeah. Then it will end with
Eardrum.
eardrum. Eardrum is also called as tympanic membrane.
Tympanic membrane.
Very good. Very good, students. By the way, when I say external auditory canal, then is there any internal auditory canal? Yes, there is. The middle ear, the empty space in the middle ear is called internal auditory canal. That's it. Okay. This is external and this is internal. Fine. Yeah. In this picture, they didn't mention the names of these bones. In this, they have mentioned the names. That's it. No matter whatever diagram, everything points the same story about the structure of ear. Okay. So here they are discussing about malleus, incus, and stairs. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now let us see external ear. What are the parts of external ear and its description? Okay. So external ear is basically composed of ear auricle, external auditory canal, and tympanic membrane. So yeah. So ear auricle. So ear auricle or pinna, it is a flap of elastic cartilage. It is covered by the skin. It is a rim of auricle called helix, and it has a lobule. Okay. So upper portion is called helix, and lower portion is called lobule. Okay. It plays an important role in localizing of sound. So it will capture the sound and it will concentrate sound, or it will direct sound into the ear canal. That is the main function of the external ear. And also it opens into external auditory canal. So the ear is open into external auditory canal. Very basic points. Okay. Then okay. As I said, these lobes, basic things. I'm just ignoring it. Then external auditory canal. So the length of this external auditory canal is around 2.5 centimeters long. Okay. And it is extended up to the tympanic membrane of the ear. So near the external opening of the external auditory canal contains a hairs and ceruminous glands. I said right? It contains a gland which will produce the wax, and those glands are called as ceruminous glands. Okay, ceruminous glands. So the purpose of ceruminous glands is to secrete the cerumen. Cerumen means ear wax. Okay, and also it composed of few hairs also. The combination of hairs and cerumen plays important role in preventing dust and entering of any foreign objects into the external ear. So that is the major function of the these glands. Okay, glands and hair together will prevent dust and any pathogens entering into the ear. So this is all about the external ear. The third one is the tympanic membrane. So tympanic membrane is also called eardrum. So it is a thin semi-transparent partition between external auditory and middle ear. So it is a partition between external auditory canal and the internal auditory canal. It is covered by epidermis. It is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. So basically, it is made up of simple cuboidal epithelium. Very, very sensitive. Even small pressure applied to this tympanic membrane can damage it. So don't keep anything inside ears. Very, very sensitive layer. Okay. So this is all about the external ear. The external ear has pinna. Pinna, the main purpose of pinna is for localizing sound into the ear, external ear auditory canal. And auditory canal contains a gland called Serminis gland. The purpose of Serminis gland is for production of wax, and also it contains hair. Together, hair and Serminis gland will prevent dust and foreign objects entering into the ear. Then we have the tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane will connect in middle ear to the external ear. It will capture the sound waves. It is made up of simple cuboidal epithelium, and it is semi-transparent in nature. So this is all about the external ear. Coming to the middle ear is composed of ear ossicles, oval window, and eustachian tube. So first, let us see what are these auditory ossicles. So here we have three auditory ossicles: malleus, incus, and stapes. So I think we need not to go much depth about function of the properties of malleus, incus, stapes. Simply, they will amplitude the sound signal, or they will increase the sound signal. So middle ear is a small, middle ear is small air-filled cavity in temporal bone. It is lined by epithelium. It is separated from external ear by eardrum. It is separated from inner ear by oval window. So it is separated inner ear by oval window, and externally it is separated by eardrum. So here we have ear ossicles, oval window, and eustachian tube. So ear ossicles. So this is how the ear ossicles will function. So they will take the signal and they will amplitude the sound signal so that greater amount of force will be generated by the stapes when it is hitting to the oval window of the inner ear. Sorry, in the middle ear. So yeah. So the meaning of malleus incus stapes. The malleus is the starting one. So malleus is connected to the tympanic membrane, and the word is hammer. Since it looks like a hammer, it is called malleus. Okay, it is the first bone of the middle ear. The handle of the malleus is attached to the internal surface of the eardrum. Head of the malleus is connected to the incus. So head is connected to the incus, whereas the tail portion is connected to the eardrum. So the primary purpose of malleus is to transmit sound waves or vibrations from eardrum to incus. So it will transmit sound signals from tympanic membrane to the incus or middle bone of the ossicle. Okay, that is all about the malleus. Then coming to the second bone, which is incus. So incus is the second one. It is located in between malleus and stapes. Incus will transmit vibrations from malleus to stapes. Oh, what a simple words. Okay, so very basic things. Then stapes. So stapes is the third bone and final bone of the ear bone. It is the smallest and lightest bone of the human body. Stapes connected to the incus outside of the, it is connected to the oval window. Okay. So here it is connected to oval window, and here it is connected to the incus. So the base of the foot plate of the stapes is to the oval window. Oh, that's it. So this is all about the malleus incus stapes. Next, oval window. So this stapes is connected to a portion called oval window, or this is the region where the middle ear is connected to the inner ear. So this oval window is covered. It is a membrane covered opening that leads from middle ear to the vestibule of the inner ear. So it is connected near the vestibular region of the ear. Okay. The oval window is the intersection of the middle ear with the inner ear, and it is connected by stapes. By the time vibrations reach the oval window, they have been amplified over 10 times from what they were when they connected to the tympanic membrane. So the sound signal has been greatly amplitude, greatly, what is that? Amplified 10 times from the normal sound. Okay. If I'm shouting normally, the sound wave has been 10 times increased. So 10 times greater sound waves will be generated by the states, and these states is connected to the inner ear. Okay, then last and final one is eustachian tube in the middle ear. The middle ear is eustachian tube is filled with air space. It consists of both bone and hyaline cartilage. Why hyaline cartilage? Because palate in the bottom of the eustachian tube, you will end up with palate of the mouth. In the mouth, on the top surface of the mouth, you have a hard bone-like structure. Okay, that bone, if you touch in front, it is bony like thing, and if you touch the upper surface on the posterior aspect, then it will be like a membranous or cartilaginous thing, or it will be smooth. So simply it is connected to the palate of the mouth, and that palate they are saying nasopharynx. Okay, so it is extended up to nasopharynx, and it is normally closed at pharyngeal end. During swallowing, chewing, or running, it opens. So it helps maintaining equal air pressure. Okay, I will tell one thing here. How many of you experienced like your ears are closed due to some unknown pressure in the
Yes,
ears?
sir.
When
Yes,
you
sir.
when you're experiencing that, you just simply yawn once. You just open your mouth and yawn once, and they will be redistributed. The ears will become again free, relaxing. So when you are yawning, the eustachian tube will be open so that the normal air will enter into the ears and it will balance the pressure. So absence of pressure will cause this severe discomfort within the ears, and that can be rectified by yawning. Okay, when you are yawning, the end of the eustachian tube will be open so that the equal air will be distributed to the both of the ears. So that is our function of the eustachian tube. I know this is boring stuff, but you must know all these things. Then coming to the third part, which is the inner ear. So this inner ear basically made up of semicircular canals, cochlea and vestibule. Now, first let us see this. Uh, okay, this entire inner ear is made up of two things. Labyrinth means it is like a messy rooms. Okay, an interconnected multiple rooms is called labyrinth. You may get lost. You may get yourself lost in labyrinth. I don't know how to explain labyrinth in normal terms. It is like a puzzle rooms. Okay, since it is like it is connected to many canals. That is why it is called labyrinth. And this labyrinth is made up of two parts: bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. Bony means the bone itself is curved inside to make the canals. Within this bony canals, you have the tubes, blood vessel-like structures, and they are called as membranous labyrinth. Within this membranous labyrinth, you will found fluid, and that fluid is called lymph. You have perilymph and endolymph. The differences between this perilymph and endolymph. Okay, how I can tell is, imagine you have two types of fluids. One is high density fluid and other one is low density fluid. Or imagine you have water and oil. ఇంకా చాలా అన్న 1 hour లో చేసేస్తాం 1 hour. What I'm trying to say. Within this labyrinth, you have two types of fluids. Okay. Presence of two types of fluids will greatly enhance propel of waves within the fluids. Imagine you have water and petrol. You took a water bottle. You kept water and petrol, and water and petrol don't mix. They will float on each other. So if you are hitting any waves, you can see a great amount of variation in the movement of these two fluids, and that will enhance a better wave propagation. So that is why we have two types of fluids within the inner ear, so that a greater amount of waves will be propelled within the canals, and they can able to oscillate the ears, the hair follicles, so that they can generate better nerve impulses. Yeah. So basically, we have outer bony labyrinth and inner membranous labyrinth. So in this outer bony labyrinth only, we will find semilunar canals, vestibule, and cochlea. So basically, it is the bone which is bended here and there to make semilunar canals, semicircular canals, vestibule, and cochlea. Whereas inner membranous labyrinth is made up of endolymph. It is fluid-filled canal, and within this endolymph, you will find the hair follicles, which is called cortea of the ear. Okay, the same story, students. Semilunar canals, we have three semilunar canals. We have posterior canal, anterior canal, we have posterior, lateral, and we have one more. Anterior, posterior, and lateral semilunar canal. Okay, so we have anterior, posterior, lateral semilunar canals. That's it. So inside these canals, you will found small hair-like structures, hair cells, to maintain the static equilibrium. Okay, ampulla. That's it. Then you have vestibule. So vestibule, it is a membranous labyrinth. There is no much significance of vestibule. That is why it is called vestibule. Vestibule means something which is not much required. Okay. So it is an area where the oval window was connected to the cochlear region of the inner ear. Then corti. Corti is important. So corti means within this cochlea, corti is a system of hair cells and neurons. corte is a system of hair cell which is connected to a neuron. So when the hair cell is moving, this neuron will generate a nerve impulse. So together, hair cell and the neuron together is called as organ of corte, and it is this organ of corte which is actually producing the sound or which is actually detecting the sound. So interestingly, the way we are detecting sound is through water medium rather than air medium within the ear. So we are not detecting sound directly through the air, rather than we are converting air into a water wave, and that water wave is converted to a chemical signal, electrochemical signal or nerve impulse. So I'm not going in depth about the mechanism of organ of corte. So I'm just skipping this much depth physiology of the ear. So I'm just giving you a basic idea about what is organ of corte. Organ of corte is a system of hairs and nerves which will generate or which will detect the sound signal, and they will generate the nerve impulses which will be sent to the brain, and the brain will process it. As I said, within this cochlear region, we have two types of lymph, perilymph and endolymph. As I said, both the lymph will have different densities so that the waves can propel efficiently within this perilymph and endolymph. And believe it or not, we still don't know how the perilymph is generated in the ear. It is still mysterious. How the perilymph is circulating within ear is still unknown. So if any one of you are interested, means you may get Nobel Prize just by giving explanation for this. How perilymph is generated in the eye, no one knows. Yeah, but there might be some reason. Don't blame, don't keep it, don't give credit to the God, by the way. Anyway, so that's it. So this is all about organ of corte and everything. So if you want explanation of organ of corte, you can go through this slide. Okay. So it is a system. It is a place where there are many hair cells. It is connected to the oval window. These hair cells will move, and this movement of hair cells will cause movement of receptors, nerve receptors, and movement of nerve receptors will result in production of nerve impulses, and that nerve impulses will send to the brain. So that is all about the organ of corte. Then overall mechanism of the ear or physiology of hearing. So what is the mechanism of hearing? Very simply, um, the ear pinna will take the sound signal. So auricle or pinna direct sound waves into the external auditory canal. When the sound waves strike eardrum, that cause eardrum to vibrate. So the sound waves will strike the eardrum, and that results in vibration of eardrum. The central area of the eardrum is connected to the malleus incus stabs, so which will start vibrating. So malleus incus stabs will start vibrating, and that will result in transmitting of signal ear waves from tympanic membrane to the inner ear by the ear ossicles, and also they will greatly amplify the sound signal. Now, as the step moves back and forth, it will push the membrane of oval window. So when the steps moving front and back, it will move the membrane of the oval window, and that will generate waves. The movement of oval window will set up fluid pressure waves in the perilymph. So it will generate waves in the perilymph of the cochlea. So the vibrations will be transmitted to the organ of corte. Organ of corte means it is a system of nerves and air follicles. So this organ of corte will generate the nerve impulses, and these nerve impulses are sent to the brain by via eighth cranial nerve. Eighth cranial nerve is the auditory nerve, and this auditory nerve will give signals to the brain, and brain will process the signal. That's it. This is all about the ear. Last and final, there is a small system called vestibular system. As I said, the functions of ear includes detection of sound and also maintaining the balance of the body.
Balance.
And yeah, and that balance is maintained by a specialized system called vestibular system. The primary purpose of vestibular system is to understand the orientation of the body, or simply to maintain the balance. The body position, the orientation of the body will be understood by this vestibular system. It is like a motion sensor in your mobile. So when you're, it's like a gyroscope. I don't know whether you know gyroscope or not. It is a group of sensors which will detect up, down, right, left, and altitude. So one sensor will detect the up, down movement, other sensor will detect the right, left movement, and third sensor will detect the amplitude, the height of the person. With these three data, we can able to understand the exact position of the body or the exact orientation of the phone. So how this system works is it will get data about the right, left, or front, back data through the fluid in the cochlear region. Then it will understand the amplitude by variations in the pressure of the fluid, and the orientation of hair cells will also, together these three will understand the orientation of the body, which will maintain the balance. When you're taking excessive alcohol, you may lose your balance. And the reason is, when you're taking alcohol, that alcohol will thin the perilymph. The perilymph fluid will become more thin. That means rather than having semi jelly state, it will become much more like a water. If it become more like water, the movement of hair follicle will be reduced. So because of this imbalance in the movement of this fluid, our body will confuse about the orientation of the body, and the person will start dancing on the road after drunken. It will affect the neurons, the hair follicles, and the fluid texture. Both of this contributes to the loss of balance in the drunken people. Yeah. That's it. I'm not going much depth about this one. You can go through it, okay? So it's a short topic. The balance is made by the vestibular system. It is a system composed of hair follicles, fluids, and its concentration. Together will maintain the orientation of the body. There are specialized cells called otoliths. So these otoliths, together otoliths and hair cells, will detect the orientation of the body. That's it, okay? So this is all about the ear physiology and anatomy. A quick review of today's lecture. So in today's lecture, we discussed about the physiology of the ear. So you see the anatomy of the ear. Ear was broadly divided into 3 areas: external ear, middle ear, and inner ear. External ear is composed of auricle, external auditory pathway, and tympanic membrane. Whereas middle ear is composed of ear ossicles or Malleus incus traps, middle ear bones, oval window, and eustachian tube. Whereas inner ear is composed of semicircular canals, vestibule, and cochlea. So yeah, if you have any doubts, you can ask me, students. What's in your topic? I hope not. Can I end this session?
Yes, sir.
No doubt, sir. Okay, thank you very much, students.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.